G'day and welcome to episode 16 of the Plugged In Australia podcast, your straight shooting guide to electric mobility in this big island / continent / country of ours, Australia. I'm your host Jamie, coming to you on this beautiful morning, Monday the 16th of February 2026. We're tracking the shift that's making driving cleaner, quieter and more fun. Without too much BS, I like to think. Big episode today, performance EVs are hitting new highs, heavy industry going battery powered in the Pilbara, some safety debates that matter for everyday buyers, and long-term forecasts showing huge growth ahead. We tie everything back to Australia, our families, fleets, mining giants, and vast distances. Let's roll. Alright, kicking off with some spy shots that are causing a buzz. The updated 2027 Hyundai Santa Fe caught hot weather testing in the Victorian High Country, addressing the bold and some say controversial styling that's divided buyers. Now, the current Santa Fe, I appreciate, is not a full EV or even a plug-in hybrid at this point, but I think that may be changing. It's launched with boxy, rugged looks and those low-mounted horizontal tail lights that became a polarizing feature. Now, dominated a lot of tests, won a lot of Car of the Year awards, but sales have lagged behind the Toyota Kluger and even the smaller Sorento here in Australia. What's the fix? A radical mid-cycle refresh, moving to Hyundai's Art of Steel language, inspired by the Nexo hydrogen SUV. Now, some spy photos, which obviously you can't see here, show a heavy camouflage, but changes are clear. New headlights mounted higher on the sides, more of a Kia Tasman style, ditching the H-shaped LEDs, and vertically arranged tail lights to replace the divisive low horizontals. Proportions will stay rugged and spacious. This will be perfect for Australian families needing the 7 seats and the boot to go with that, I guess. Some interior glimpses hint at a squared-off steering wheel and a refreshed screen. Now, the powertrains carry over, likely the 1.6 litre hybrid, 172 kilowatt, 367 newton meters. Although I did see in some reports there that there is a strong possibility of a plug-in hybrid option, which would be good. We'll keep an eye on that one. The spied model started silently on electric before the petrol kicked in. Obviously, the mild hybrid there. Australian testing in the Alpine region checks turbo engines in heat and altitude, and conditions mirror real-world use, and the time zones sync perfectly with Korea. This one is expected late 2026, possibly early 2027, and this rivals directly with the Toyota Kluger, which, as we mentioned last week, will be staying hybrid here while going a full EV overseas. For us Aussie buyers, a less polarizing design could boost family appeal in the large SUV segment. You know, practical towing, space, and efficiency. Styling is obviously subjective, and mild hybrids, not even less of a fan of them than plug-in hybrids. However, with any luck, those reports that we read about the plug-in hybrid may come to fruition, and it'll sort of start edging that way. We'll see how we go, and we'll keep a good eye on it. Safety takes centre stage with ANCAP CEO Hala Huwerg pushing hard for Australia to adopt China's incoming ban on fully electric door handles without mechanical backups, a trend affecting Tesla, BYD and many modern EVs. The core issue, flush or retractable handles look sleek and cut drag, generally improving range by 10 to 20 kilometres, but rely entirely on electronics and vehicle power. In emergencies, crashes cutting battery, the 12-volt power, or submersion in floods, occupants could be trapped inside, and rescuers struggle with access. Huwerg said the concern is warranted. It's an area where there's opportunity for the government to sweep up and stop this from happening. So as we mentioned last week, from January 2027, in China, new models must have mechanical release inside and outside. All vehicles have to have it by 2029. ANCAP wants Australia to follow immediately via updated Australian design rules, aka ADRs. The timeline here, ANCAP and Euro NCAP introduced specific egress testing protocols in 2026. Australia joined a UN working group in June of last year to amend global regs. A department spokesperson said parties agreed that opening a door in an emergency should be intuitive, even after the loss of electrical power. Affected models would be very widespread in the EV world. Tesla Model 3, Model Y, flush with manual buttons. The Atto 3, the Seal, C-Line 7, retractable, pop-out ones, Polestar, and even some petrol and hybrids adopt the style as well. Current fail-safes include internal pull cables, floor releases, or external pry points for jaws of life. Incidences are rare globally and Australia-wide. So for us, with sales of over 158,000 EVs in 2025, we have more families driving these. Our rural crash rates and flood-prone areas, Queensland, New South Wales, have a heightened risk. ADRs already require internal opening and no sole electric reliance for safety systems, but don't explicitly ban electric-only handles yet. So a little bit more of a technical deep dive. Some flush designs do reduce coefficient of drag by 0.01 to 0.02. It's about a 2 to 5% drag cut, adding efficiency. But power loss scenarios, crash damaged wiring and the not, make electrical actuation unreliable. Mechanical backups add minimal weight and cost, and there's really no reason to mandate. Now, this is a precautionary evolution. Current systems work. Obviously, rare incidents where they don't, and it won't delay EV adoption. But standardizing intuitive mechanical options is a pure win for safety as designs push boundaries. As a bit of advice, just ask a dealer. If power fails in a crash, how do I open this manually? Simple. Sometimes they're hidden behind a little panel inside, and you just don't know where they are. And if it's an emergency, you're not exactly calm and thinking, so you need to have that in your mind and know exactly where it is. So I think this keeps EV safety leading globally, and it's positive for confidence. Suzuki's first full EV, the EV Vitara small SUV, is confirmed for June 2026 Australian showrooms. It's a compact, practical entrant with genuine all-wheel drive rarity in the affordable segment. Built, co-developed with Toyota on a dedicated skateboard platform, the variants will include the Motion, which will be a front-wheel drive, 49 kilowatt-hour LFP battery with 106 kilowatts and 193 newton-meter front motor with 344 kilometers of WLTP range, and then the Ultra, which will be an all-wheel drive with a 61 kilowatt-hour LFP battery, 135 kilowatt with 307 newton meters of torque combined via 128 kilowatt front and a 48 kilowatt rear. And that will have a 396 kilometers of WLTP or 426 kilometers for a front wheel drive 61 kilowatt hour version. Charging on that one will be 100 kilowatts DC, so not a lot in the world on fire there. Should expect a 10 to 80% charge in about 45 minutes. Three-phase AC charging will be 11 kilowatts, and it will come standard with a heat pump, which will be absolutely awesome come winter time. Features will be 18-inch alloys, LED lights, 360 camera, 10.1-inch touchscreen, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, a 10.25-inch digital cluster, your full ADAS, your AEB, adaptive cruise, lane keeping, etc. 7 airbags. The Ultra will get heated and powered seats, wireless charger, a glass roof, and Infinity branded audio with a subwoofer and adaptive high beams, that is. Pricing is expected to be 43 to 53,000 drive away. This will be a premium over the BYD Atto 2, which is about 10k cheaper, or the Leapmotor B10, but justified by all-wheel drive, which will be unique in its class. Rivals like the Atto 2, Atto 3, EV3, MGS5, front-wheel drive only. Well, for now anyway. We know from last week the Atto 3 and the EV3 do have some all-wheel drive models coming, so we'll see how that goes. You've got your Suzuki's reputation there. If you don't know really too much about Suzuki, so never really had much to do with them, so never really hear many problems though, so there's that too. You'll have cap price servicing and have a very strong dealer network. The size will be compared to a Mazda CX-3 petrol with your elevated seating, efficient urban roundabouts with your light gravel capability via the all-grip e-torque vectoring. Our tie-in here is the LFP batteries love our heat. Minimal degradation, and the heat pump really suits variable climates. All-wheel drive will be handy for your wet roads, your regional tracks, maybe a bit of sand possibly. The range is modest for long highways. You're probably looking at about 300 kilometers, maybe 350 on a highway, and pricing is definitely higher than the Chinese rivals. But first Suzuki with widescreen cluster and collaboration ensures quality. This would be a great city car for those that want that higher driving position, or even a second car for families. The flagship Kia EV9 GT is almost officially on sale here in Australia right now. A proper hot rod style version of the groundbreaking large 3-row electric SUV, packing supercar rivaling performance into a family hauler and claiming the title of Kia's most expensive model ever sold here. Alright, let's unpack some of the details because it's a landmark for performance EVs in our market. Pricing will start at, are you sitting down, $129,250 plus on-road costs. Whew, that's $8,250 more than the already premium EV9 GT line all-wheel drive, which is at $121,000 before on-roads. For context, the 2026 EV9 lineup pricing has remained unchanged for the lower variants, obviously except for the new GT. The entry air rear-wheel drive is $97,000, the earth all-wheel drive is $106,000, and the GT line, as I said, $121,000, all before on-roads. The deliveries are imminent, with cars arriving in showrooms as we speak. Powertrain is where it really shines. Dual electric motors delivering all-wheel drive with a massive 374 kilowatts of power, that is up 91 kilowatts over the GT line, and 740 newton meters of torque, up 40 newton meters on the GT line. That should get you 0 to 100 in 4.5 seconds, almost a second quicker than the GT line's 5.2 seconds. It's built on the same eGMP platform with a 99.8 kilowatt hour long-range battery, giving a WLTP range of around 510 kilometers, which is actually 5 kilometers more than the GT line, despite the extra performance, and most likely due to some fine-tuned efficiency mapping. Key upgrades for that performance: you will get electronically controlled adaptive suspension with full local tuning program, and Kia Australia puts thousands of kilometres on prototypes across our roads, on highways, twisty bits, urban bumps, all really to dial in that ride and handling. Some bigger brakes with lime green calipers, an electronic limited slip differential for better cornering and torque vectoring, and some gloss black 21-inch alloy wheels shod with high-performance rubber. Exterior styling amps up the aggression, a digital LED grille with Kia's signature star map lighting pattern that animates on approach, which is, I think, the only vehicle that Kia has in Australia with that star map lighting pattern. Plus those lime green accents tying into the calipers for a proper performance look. It's luxury focus for families. Standard second row captain's relaxation chairs, fully reclining with power adjustment. No bench seat like lower variants. Just on that, I couldn't find any details about whether there will be just that, the 6-seat configuration, or whether there will also be a 7-seat configuration. So we'll have to see once cars are in showrooms and there's some specs on the website, which there isn't as of yet. Continuing on, you've got black suede and Alcantara upholstery throughout, and the lime green highlights continue inside on the seats and the dash. You've got sports front seats for better bolstering during enthusiastic driving as well. Some of the real-world implications is this is a torque on demand for effortless highway overtakes on trips from Sydney to the Hunter Valley or Melbourne to the Great Ocean Road. Instant response without the gear shifts. The adaptive suspension means it handles our potholed suburban streets and country B roads better than the EV9. The V2L capability carries over, and charging remains strong up to 240 kilowatt DC for 10 to 80% in around 25 minutes at a station that will supply that sort of power. In the thin, large 3-row SUV space, it rivals the Mercedes-Benz EQS SUV, which is even more expensive, 200,000 plus. The Hyundai Ioniq 9, which is a similar platform but very much less performance focused. We've got the Volvo EX90 and the Cadillac Vistic, which is due later this year. The EV9 pioneered this segment for over a year ago, and the GT adds proper excitement where rivals are very much more comfort orientated. But let's be honest, at $129,000 plus, it's premium pricing. Range will drop in real-world highway driving, loaded with family and luggage. Expect maybe 400 to 450 kilometers, and those big 21-inch wheels might firm up the ride slightly versus a smaller option. Upfront cost is high versus a petrol 7-seater like a Kluger or a Pathfinder, though your running costs will slash that gap. Electricity, $500 to $800 a year. Home charging versus at least $3,000 plus for fuel. But with Kia's 7-year unlimited kilometer warranty, the battery gets 7 years, 150,000 Ks. Proven reliability from the standard EV9, and this being a global reveal, which was revealed in late 2024, it's a statement that large family EVs can thrill, not just transport. However, I really do think that the EV9, well, we know the regular EV9 sales are struggling massively, and Kia have said that they have no plans on discounting the vehicles despite the sales slump. However, if you compare the EV9 to the BYD C-Line 8, now I know the C-Line 8 is a plug-in hybrid, so it's not a fair comparison. However, there will be a full battery electric version coming next year. But if we just compare this to the EV9, in size, they are almost the same. The BYD is 5,040 mil. The EV9 is 5,015 mil, so it's about 30 mil longer overall. The C-Line 8 is about 16 mil wider. The height is almost exactly the same, but the EV9 does have a longer wheelbase, so you should get a little bit better interior space. However, the top of the range C-Line 8 Premium All Drive is $70,990 plus on-road costs, and if we're just talking performance specs, that's a 0 to 100 at about 4.9 seconds. So that is a substantial saving in price, even if you compare it to the GT line rather than the GT. It's a difference of 50 grand. All-wheel drive C-Line 8 for the missus, and get yourself an Atto 2 or an Atto 3 as your own car, or vice versa, depending on who needs the bigger car. Honestly, it's a no-brainer. If it was me, I would be, as much as the EV9 looks awesome, and the EV5 I have is a fantastic car, it's just really hard to compete with that sort of value. And the closest example I could find of a hybrid to full electric difference, even though it's a mild hybrid, not a plug-in hybrid, was the Volvo. The XC40 to the EX40 is about a $20,000 to $22,000 difference in price. So let's say that you're looking at maybe about $15,000 premium on the C-Line 8 to go full battery electric. You know, still $40,000, $35,000 to $40,000 cheaper. You can still literally buy another car. So I think Kia need to really have a strong, hard look. I know they have challenges with the pricing due to the platform that it's on. It's not a very widely shared platform, and so it has to recoup its R&D costs somehow. But why bother if you're not going to sell cars? It's just going to sit there, and then you're going to have 3-year-old cars still in dealer stock, and they're just, it's going to be very difficult. Anyway, enough of that, let's keep going. Australian fleet operators are moving away from demanding the biggest possible batteries in electric trucks, instead opting for smaller, right-sized packs that better match real-world duties. It's really a smarter approach, unlocking lower costs and practical adoption. Volvo Group Australia's Director of National Fleet, Michael Bridge, sums it up perfectly. We're seeing customers realise they don't need the biggest battery possible. Battery technology has caught up so much that a small configuration can still meet the task, and that's changing the conversation. This shift has accelerated over the past 2 years in customer discussions. Now, why the rethink? Early EV truck buyers focused on eliminating risk by over-specifying range. However, data from deployments shows most operations are very predictable. 250 to 300 kilometre daily with return to base overnight. Bridge says the customers are starting to look at what the truck actually does in a day. They're realising they don't need to be doing 700 kilometres a day if their operation is 250 or 300 kilometres and they're back to base every single night. So smaller batteries, for example, 200 to 400 kilowatt hours versus 600 kilowatt hours plus slash upfront purchase prices, often up to $100,000 less. These reduce vehicle tear weight, so you're going to get more payload, gives you better compliance, enable faster charging, less energy to replenish means shorter depot times and simpler infrastructure, and improve the total cost of ownership, which is the holy grail for fleets, just like evaluating diesel. Bridge again, once the business case works, it can work really well. It's total cost of ownership, safety, connectivity, and how everything works together. Advances in battery chemistry and energy density mean smaller packs now deliver reliable performance without compromise for regional and metro cycles. So, for our context, our fleets, logistics giants like Linfox, Toll, and all your supermarket chains, they run high-volume urban deliveries or fixed regional routes, which is perfect for this. The depot charging, honestly, is key, with growing confidence from shared real-world data across operators. And I know in my neck of the woods here, we have electric buses. They're just... Before it was like, oh, electric bus. Now it's like, oh, that one's a diesel. There's just so many of them. But the infrastructure at the depot had to change, have overheight gantries for charging and whatnot. But that's what you need to do. But once you've got that infrastructure in place, it's not like you're going to be putting them in every time you buy a new truck. Now, while not naming specific deployments, Volvo highlights how this maturity mirrors diesel's thinking. Match the tool to the job. Payback via lower fuel, electricity versus diesel savings can be up to $40,000 a year per truck when you're having high kilometres. Obviously, you've got the reduced maintenance, and at the moment, you've got grants like the ARENA funding, which really are just there to take that top edge off that manufacturers are charging because it's also new and they're recouping their R&D costs. So once that all goes away, that funding isn't needed anymore. You look at the solar industry is an absolutely perfect example. You had all those early days where the price was through the roof and it was all, the government had a lot of funding and a lot of incentives is the word I was looking for. However, now the incentives are marginal. They're still there, but they're very marginal, and the price of solar is even cheaper than it was back then. In all honesty, this really works brilliantly for predictable duties, but it really isn't ready for long inner-city hauls without en route megawatt charging, which I don't think I know where there's a megawatt charger. I know we've got some 400 kilowatt chargers at the servos at Eastern Creek there, close to where I am. Upfront premium remains and infrastructure upgrades needed at depots. But as Bridge notes, we've always said you've got to find the right application for the truck. Once you do that and the business case stacks up, it really can work very well. This fit-for-purpose mindset is accelerating heavy EV adoption where it counts. Practical, profitable decarbonisation for Australian logistics. And as you can probably tell from the few episodes that we've done, I do have a very good passion for electric trucking. I think it's an absolute no-brainer. In my day job working with diesel trucks and machines all the time, believe me, having electric ones will just make everything, cost, breathing, everything better. Let's keep going. Fortescue has deployed the world's first commercial battery electric heavy haul locomotives. Ooh, it's very fancy, locomotives. In the Pilbara. 2 absolute beasts, 14.5 megawatt hour batteries each, marking a milestone for decarbonising Australia's iron ore heartland. Some specs. Each locomotive packs a, as I said, 14.5 megawatt hour lithium ion battery. That's about 200 to 300 average EV batteries, or it's enough to power a household fridge for 30 years. Built by Progress Rail, that's a subsidiary of Caterpillar, with BYD battery tech. They feature liquid-cooled thermal management for 40 to 45 degrees Celsius plus desert heat, regen braking capturing megawatts downhill, and full heavy haul capability matching diesel loads from pit to port. Some savings, 1 million litres of diesel annually per year, cutting 1.25% of Fortescue's 80 million litre yearly consumption. Charged via expanding solar farms. They've got about 3,000 plus panels at the moment, and then you've got the regen. CEO Dina Otranto will test them with our conventional fleet, and we want to understand exactly their performance. Then we'll pull the trigger on a fully decarbonised solution for rail. Manufacturing takes about 2 years per unit, and a full fleet, 70 diesels, transition multi-billion, aiming ahead of a 2030 real zero goal, as opposed to a net zero goal. It's another story for another day. The broader Pilbara context is that the iron ore rail spans 2,000 kilometres of privately owned tracks. Massive emitters. Having a good day with my words again. Diesel is 2/3 BHP's emissions. And BHP is testing Wabtec prototypes soon, and Rio Tinto has shelved plans citing tech limits. I guess Fortescue might have to show them there are no tech limits. You know, you're going to benefit from lower energy and the lower cost per kilometre, simplified maintenance, and near zero emissions with renewables. Some of the challenges: energy density limits versus diesel, thermal degradation, charging downtime, and a huge capex. In honesty, engineering hurdles are real. Obviously, Rio Tinto have shown that. Full shift is very much years away. However, Fortescue is leading where it is practical. All right, now let's look ahead with some blockbuster long-term forecasting that's got the whole EV community abuzz. According to the latest Bloomberg NEF report, electric vehicle sales, that's battery electric vehicles plus plug-in hybrids, no mild hybrids, thank you very much, are tipped to surge more than sixfold by 2030, hitting over 640,000 units annually. That's a big leap from the approximately 158,000 EVs sold in 2025, and it signals that we are finally on the cusp of mainstream adoption here in Australia. Let's break down the numbers properly, because this isn't just a headline grab. It's backed by solid data and ties directly into policy shifts we've been watching closely. In 2025, total EV sales reached, as I said, around 158,000 units, up from 114 in 2024. Battery electric vehicles made up about 2/3 of that, while plug-in hybrids showed the biggest year-on-year growth, jumping from 12,598 in 2023 to 23,392 in 2024, and then absolutely going chockers to 51,369 in 2025. That's massive percentage gains as more practical plug-in options like the BYD Shark 6 and Sea Lion, we've got Sea Lion 5 and the Sea Lion 6 now, models hitting the market. The forecast gets really exciting from here. Plug-in hybrid sales are expected to peak in 2026 at just over 78,000 units. That's the high watermark as manufacturers flood the market with hybrids to meet early targets. After that, pure battery electric vehicles take over the growth story, adding more than 100,000 sales per year from 2026 onwards. By 2029, BEVs alone could top 500,000 units annually, pushing the total EV figure to a whopping 640,000 plus in 2030. What's driving this rocket ship? Two big factors stand out. First, the new Vehicle Efficiency Standards, aka the NVES, that kicked off mid-2025. It is forcing car makers to improve fleet averages or face penalties. And we've already seen it push battery electric vehicle sales hard in the second half of last year as companies cleared older stock with incentives. Second, the explosion in model variety, especially affordable electric SUVs under 40 grand. That's really the sweet spot for Australian buyers who love practical, elevated vehicles for families, city driving, and your light regional runs. We're talking more options in the medium and small SUV segments that dominate our top seller lists. Brand-wise, it's getting competitive at the top. BYD is rapidly closing the gap on Tesla as Australia's favourite EV maker. The BYD Sea Lion has already dispatched the Model 3 as the second most popular EV behind the evergreen Model Y. Proof that Chinese brands are nailing price, features, and our SUV obsession, even though the Model Y we sell here does come out of Giga Shanghai. For everyday Aussies, this forecast means real change on the horizon. By 2023, 1 in 2 new cars could have a plug if the momentum holds. Cheaper used EVs flooding the market, which is great for budget buyers entering the second-hand market. Faster charging network, expansion driven by volume, and total ownership costs that make petrol look expensive. Think a family in suburban Brisbane or Melbourne saving thousands yearly on fuel and maintenance, or regional fleets switching without massive downtime risks. An honesty check, because we always keep it real, there's growing uncertainty baked into this. If plug-in hybrids and regular hybrids end up getting better efficiency credits under the NVES than expected, it could slow pure BEV demand as manufacturers lean into those easier options for compliance. Policy tweaks could shift the balance, and we know infrastructure, especially fast chargers outside of metro areas, really needs to scale massively to support hundreds of thousands more EVs. However, overall, this Bloomberg NEF projection is EV positive gold. The NVES is working as intended, choice is exploding, and Australia's unique market, our SUVs, our utes, and our long distances, is finally getting the models it deserves. If these numbers hold, 2030 is when electrification goes from early adopters to everyone. Finally today, a big shift from Tesla that's got owners talking. From April 2026, full self-driving FSD supervised will be available only via subscription in Australia and New Zealand. No more outright purchase option for new vehicle orders. Now let's unpack this step by step because it's a significant change for anyone with a Tesla or considering one. FSD Supervised, launched here on 18th of September 2025, was the first right-hand drive market to get FSD globally. Initially priced at $10,100 for outright purchase or $149 per month subscription. Since launch, Australian and Kiwi owners have racked up over 1 million kilometres using the system. That's real-world data feeding back to Tesla for improvements. Alright, so the cutoff, any new vehicle orders placed after the 31st of March 2026 cannot buy FSD outright. It's a subscription only from then on. If you already own a Tesla and have hardware 4, which is the latest hardware, you can still purchase FSD outright via the app until that March 31 deadline. Enhanced Autopilot and any FSD transfer programs also end on the same date. Now this aligns with Elon Musk's global announcement on X, where he stated Tesla would stop selling FSD outright after mid-February 2026, with regional rollouts following, pushing towards a recurring revenue model. It's unavailable entirely for older Hardware 3 vehicles, which is another story for another day again, and those owners are stuck without access for now. So you might be asking yourself, what is FSD supervised exactly? It's Tesla's advanced driving assistance suite, handling highway driving, lane changes, and navigating complex intersections, traffic lights, stop signs, and even city streets with supervision required. So hands on or near the wheel and eyes on the road. It's supervised because it's not full robo-taxi autonomy yet. You stay responsible, but it's a massive step ahead beyond basic autopilot using end-to-end neural networks trained on billions of kilometers of data. What are the implications for us? Well, we've embraced it quickly with that 1 million kilometer milestone in just months. Think Sydney peak hour traffic, Melbourne trams, or Brisbane roundabouts where it's proving useful. Subscription at $149 a month offers flexibility. Trial it without huge upfront commitment, cancel if you don't use it often, or switch cars easier. For high kilometer drivers, commuters, regional sales reps, it could pay off in reduced stress and safer driving. There isn't a lot of comparisons out there. You've got Hyundai Kia offering a strong highway assistant, and Mercedes has Drive Pilot, it's a limited hands-off system. So Tesla's vision-only approach and constant over-the-air updates keep it way ahead of the pack in capability, for now at least. But honesty check as always, subscription adds ongoing cost. It's about $1,788 a year versus $10,100 once, which stings for long-term owners who preferred buying outright. Hardware 3 exclusion frustrates early adopters, many of the 2020 to 2023 models, and is still supervised, not eyes off like promised robo-taxi future. Regulatory hurdles in Australia mean slower feature rollouts than the US, and real-world edge cases, so construction zones, kangaroos, things like that, need more local data. This recurring model funds faster development. More kilometres driven means quicker improvements for everyone. For new buyers from April, it's simpler access to cutting-edge autonomy without the big lump sum. So if you're a Tesla owner eyeing FSD, check your hardware and the app before March 31st, because this change locks in the subscription era down under. A lot of people not very happy about it. A lot of people thinking that Musk is doing this because as part of his remuneration package, he has to get a certain amount of subscribers to FSD. I don't know the number off the top of my head. So that's something there. I think that has partly something to do with it. But also everybody, FSD transfer, always asking it at the investor days and things like that. This just removes that completely. And it's just like, it's a subscription. And to be honest, for people like myself, who generally turn our cars over every 3 to 5 years, I may not want to get that particular brand next time. Although with the sales figures for Tesla that we're seeing lately, people may not care about FSD. They may not be high on the priority list as much as Elon thinks. So very interesting. Let's see how we go. Well, I think we'll sort of see by the end of the year how much of an impact, if anything, this makes. That's our episode for today, Monday the 16th of February, the start of another new week. Hope you enjoyed this in-depth episode. Tried to extract as much detail out of it as possible. If you have any suggestions, any comments, feedback, info at pluggedinaustralia.com.au. And until the next time, stay plugged in and stay charged. Ci vediamo.